Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2019. I'm Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. It is August the 13th. It is 4:15 in Las Vegas. That means it's 7:15 outside of Pittsburgh, where my co-host and partner in crime, Alex Kozora, is fresh from a soggy day at Saint Vincent, soggy and somber day at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe. Alex, happy Tuesday to you.
I wish it was a happy Tuesday, Dave, but yeah, I think you summed it up well. Soggy and somber, I think is the way to describe it. Rain short in practice. They didn't do a whole lot today. They had to leave the field around 4:25, I think is when they called it, 4:15-ish. But yeah, obviously it was low energy kind of day, not a lot of fans with the rain, and obviously the passing of Daryl Drake. So the team just trying to take it one day at a time right now, I think.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin held a morning press conference Tuesday morning to obviously address the sudden and tragic passing of wide receivers coach Daryl Drake. And I mean, look, what can you say? And I thought Mike Tomlin handled it real well, real respectful of the family, and talked a little bit about the influence that Daryl Drake had on him, dating back all the way, I think, back to when Tomlin was a coach at Arkansas State. And he talked about how the team, the team has some grief counselors on hand to help assist in this, and just trying to get through it right now. And that's getting back to Tomlin was asked something along the lines of if getting back to practice will add some sort of kind of normalcy back to things. And at the end of it, he says, and here, quote, I don't know that it does, Tomlin says, but we've got professional obligations, just like I got professional obligations to allow you guys to do what it is that you do. So we intend to march. So, I don't know what else can be added, on that aspect of it. Tomlin did, it's unclear, I think, as far as what the services are going to look like. And Mike Tomlin was obviously asked, how he's going to go about handling, the wide receiver group and potential coaching and all moving forward. And he, you could tell he really didn't want to go with, and it's the right thing to do on his end, out of respect. And, it's just way too early for him to have to talk about that. Now, us on the outside, obviously we've already started speculating what happened, but for him not to go down that avenue was certainly understood. So, anything else you want to cover as far as his address on the passing of Daryl Drake?
No, I think he summed it up well. I didn't realize that their relationship dates back to '97. As you mentioned, Tomlin being a receivers coach at Arkansas State. I don't quite remember where Daryl Drake was. He was in college at the time. He didn't join the NFL until 2004. But that just kind of shows you the fraternity that is coaching and the relationships that get built and how far back they go. So. It was a tough scene today. Obviously, the rain, didn't help any, but everyone obviously is going to be impacted by the loss of Daryl Drake. But visibly, at least, talking about from what you can just see in body language, Juju, I think, is probably taking it the hardest right now. I mean, every day in practice, the guy's high energy, joking, laughing, but obviously not today. And I know there's some photos out there of Ben consoling him. Dante Moncrief has a good photo on Instagram of him literally helping him up. I had some photos. I don't want to tweet them out. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know if that's appropriate to do. Certainly not right now, but Juju's definitely taking this one really hard.
Yeah, and they'll obviously have to try to press on and get through this, and I'm sure they will. I mean, it'll be hard. Just like the death of anybody, that or have acquaintance with. So going to be tough, and every day, it'll probably get gone but not forgotten, right? That's the term there, and hopefully hopefully they'll be able to do him proud this season. I'm sure they will. Some quick little additions. That longtime NFL coach Ray Sherman, who evidently has been in some form or fashion at some training camp practices this year, as far as I can tell, was kind of had a more visible role, if you will, during practice today, along with
Blaine Stewart.
Blaine Stewart, the son of late WVU coach as well too, and Blaine Stewart is an offensive assistant in his second year, and Sherman was visible out there helping the wide receivers and whatnot. And look, is that the way that the Steelers are going to go? I mean, who knows? And it really was just more of a revelation today that really Drake or Sherman has been evidently present some of training camp, so we'll see. I mean, they obviously will make the decision of who they feel is the right person, if any, to hire from the outside to help try to fill the huge void by the passing of Drake created.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go. Maybe a combination of people, definitely Stewart and Sherman today, and it's, things come full circle. Blaine Stewart's working with the receivers now, and it was Bill Stewart, as you mentioned, who's the late father of Blaine Stewart, and it was Bill Stewart that gave Mike Tomlin his first ever job at VMI. So it's crazy to see these things come full circle, and again, coaching really is that fraternity.
Yes, it is. And, all right, Mike Tomlin gave us a little bit of a injury report during his press conference. He said during it that he didn't expect guys like Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, Christian Scotland Williamson, and Joe Hayden. He didn't expect any of those guys to practice today. Hayden's dealing with a contusion, according to Tomlin. DeCastro, according to Tomlin, has some camp soreness. And Pouncey would not disclose what the injury was there, so I think speculation continues to be that it's some sort of maybe back tightness or whatever. We don't know for sure there, but he called him day to day, and he'll be back sooner rather than later with Pouncey, according to Tomlin. And Christian Scotland Williamson, soft tissue injury, and something that he sustained during the game Friday night, and we assume that it's a hamstring injury there. Those four did not practice, but evidently others that have been on the sideline, and Tomlin hinted at it today as well too. They slowly start getting some of these guys back. So why don't you take it from there and let us know what the medical report looks like?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest piece of information I have to pass along today, because there just wasn't a lot of actual practice, but not practicing today. And I'm just going to run through the whole names so I don't skip anybody. But Pouncey, Hayden, Scotland Williamson, who I believe is a hamstring. I think Tomlin said that after Friday's game. Vince Williams, I thought Williams was going to practice today. Maybe with the rain, they want to hold him out an extra day. Joe Hayden and DeCastro returning today. Was Deontay Johnson, Bud Dupree, Brian Allen, Artie Burns, Cam Hayward, Sutton Smith, Sean Davis, Alejandro Villanueva, and Ramon Foster. I'm not sure if Allen or Sutton Smith were in team drills, just because, again, they only had like 20 snaps a team today, so I didn't get to really get a good look at that, but everybody else was in team, and so they're full participants. So this team's in a really good place health-wise. You talk about going to the rigors of camp and coming off the first game, no major injuries there, didn't have to make a roster move, so I mean, it's about as good as it gets health-wise for any NFL team this time of year.
Yeah, they should be thankful right now. They really should. Obviously, a little bit of concern last week when it came to Hayden, and we'll monitor. It doesn't sound like anything that anybody's dealing with right now is serious, and obviously the good news, you get some of these younger guys back, and look, you need to get Sean Davis on the field too, and I think he had said last week that he was going to try to resume to being a full participant this week. Now with just two training camp practices remaining before the Steelers' second preseason game Saturday night at Heinz Field against the Kansas City Chiefs. Keep your fingers crossed that get a longer list of players to look at this weekend.
Yep, and Davis was one of those guys working in team, so I think he's got a good chance to play against Kansas City, provided everything's good health-wise. So yeah, that's the bulk of it today, but good place when it comes to the injury report.
All right, what else do we need to get to? We're not going to go position group by position group, I don't think, today, because you don't really have a lot to say. So why don't I turn it over to you and let me talk less, and you do most of the talking here, and just give us a complete rundown, and I may or may not chime in with any questions that you create.
Okay, it's really going to be a short conversation. I think I'll go through the offensive line groupings because you had some of the guys out and you're seeing them as you get real late in the camp. Guys start flipping around. So the first team was Villanueva, Foster, Finney at center, Filer at right guard, and Okorafor at right tackle. The second team O-line was Banner at left tackle. So again, seeing some flipping. Fred Johnson at left guard. So now he's played right guard, and left tackle. In camp so far. Patrick Morris at center. Derwin Gray gets elevated to second team right guard, and Gerald Hawkins second team right tackle. The third team offensive line, Damian Prince at left tackle, Garrett Brumfield at left guard, Patrick Morris again at center, J.C. Hassenauer at right guard, and Gerald Hawkins at right tackle. Again, some of the injuries, gets these guys extra reps. So you're seeing Gray move up a little bit. Hassenauer probably kick back, which I think is fair based off of, I think, just play overall. I think Hassenauer's really struggled, may not be 100% healthy. So that's the group there. And then getting Banner, Fred Johnson work on the left side. The only thing I can really note here is 7 shots. The defense won it pretty convincingly, 5-2 today. Cam Kelly had a couple of breakups, and TJ Watt picked off Roethlisberger and had a pick 6 the other way. So nice play by him.
When you tweeted that out, I wondered, did anybody go after him?
Yeah, I want to be clear about that. No one really chases the guy that has the interception in that situation, but Watt did finish it the whole other way, so it wasn't like some James Harrison weaving in and out of traffic, but he did pick it at like the one and took it back the other way in the end zone. But it was still a great interception to time that Ben's throw over the middle and pick it off.
And the only reason I say that because look, I know it's practice, but if I'm a guy on offense and I don't know who was out there, I'm making sure I get downfield and touch him up, even though they were in no pads now, just to make sure that the coaches saw me give the effort that I was cognizant of what was going on and that guy. It was one of the things that hit me when you tweeted that out today.
It's like a half-hearted chase initially, and then Watt just runs it to finish it out. And really, they just want to get guys back, get the next rep in. Like Watt had to miss the next rep because he was running the other way, had to come the whole way back. Chick came in for him. So I think coaches are like, you don't have to chase that one. Let's just re-huddle and get the next play off.
Obviously, you'll probably be able to tell more if they have a full practice the next 2 days. But if you had to guess right now, obviously Marquise Pouncey not going to play against the Chiefs. We would think Saturday night. Doesn't sound good for David DeCastro right now either. Are we going to probably see this? I guess, long story short, are we going to see kind of the same starting offensive line that we saw or close to it Friday night?
Yeah, I think it'll be close. Maybe you throw in play a Villanueva for a series or two, because I know he's always talked about trying to start the year off well, but obviously you're also dealing with his camp soreness that he kind of goes through every single year. But yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar across the board in terms of who plays and who doesn't. Maybe someone like Tuitt will play. Watt, obviously, I think has a chance to play. Sean Davis, you'll clearly see, provided he's going to be good health-wise the rest of the way. So you'll see a couple more guys that didn't play Friday play now. But that part of that's just because of health and readiness. And then maybe you get an extra guy or two that was just given the game off. But I think you want to get the long look at so many young guys right now who need the reps that you need to have a better evaluation of. So I think it's going to be a pretty similar game plan as it was against Tampa Bay.
And we don't expect to see Roethlisberger out there, right? Especially not
right.
with Pouncey not out there, right?
Yeah, I can't see any scenario. You got to look at these quarterbacks too much. I'm not risking Ben. No, I wouldn't expect Ben to play.
All right, and I would think, I'd speculate that Rudolph will get to start, and we don't know yet for sure. Maybe Tomlin will hold one more press conference, maybe I don't know, maybe on Thursday to let us know for sure. But I would think Rudolph would get to start and then be followed by Dobbs, and then maybe they get Devlin Hodges a little bit more time.
Yeah, that's my thought. Rudolph to start. Dobbs will maybe come in late in the first half, early second half, and then Hodges maybe a quarter. One other note from practice today, at least Ben had another interception. Juju slipped on a dig route. Steven Nelson picked it up. I think Nelson has, I believe, 3 or 4 interceptions in camp already. I think that leads the team. So, after that rough start that everyone kind of freaked out about, that I was just calm about, it was just shells. He's leading the team in interceptions in camp.
All right, and look, it's understandable that the offense was kind of in a funk today for sure.
Yeah, Juju especially. After that play, Juju slipped. He just kind of laid on the ground for a couple minutes. He's clearly not himself, which is 100% understandable, and everyone's going to grieve in their different ways. But that's a guy that that everyone's going to have to rally around, but also someone that eventually is going to be looked to as a leader in that locker room. But he's having a tough time of it for sure right now.
And I think you referenced it already. I think our buddy Jeff Bruder on Twitter sent us a copy of the Moncrief Instagram post of a picture of him helping Juju up off the ground. I assume maybe that might have been the play that Juju slipped on.
No, that was early in practice. That was before it really got started, and Juju came down on the practice field. Really, he just was kind of standing there. Blaine Stewart gave him a hug, and then Juju was in the end zone sitting for a little bit, but then just laid down flat on his back, just laying in the end zone. And then Moncrief came over, sat with him for a little bit, talked to him for a little bit, then helped him up as they kind of got ready for the first portion of practice. So I think you're seeing the value of Moncrief. Obviously, you brought him in for the talent he can offer you as a receiver, but being that veteran guy, that presence, that leader, that this team's going to need right now, and someone like Ray Sherman too, who has that father figure kind of background that Daryl Drake had, that Richard Mann had, that I think is going to be really valuable for this team to try to get through an obviously very difficult and challenging time.
All right, I don't want to go too far back down the Switzer Eli Rogers rabbit hole again, but I think we need to continue on our discussion a little bit, maybe about one Johnny Holton. Here's a who.
Is that you going all Chris Berman on me, Dave? Holton, here's a who. All right.
Johnny Holton in that game the other night had a couple catches. Obviously had the long one for what was it,
69 yards, I think. I think it was 69.
Was it 59 or I thought I think he had 69 yards total. I think he had one reception for 10 yards and hold on, let me do you have it pulled up in front of you here?
Yeah, I'll pull up a box score right now. I might be wrong. I mean, that's
I thought it was 2 catches for like 69 with a long of 59.
Yeah, you're right. It was you're right. 2 for 69, 59 was that long one.
And he also had a hidden yardage. He drew the pass interference penalty in that game for a gain of another 27 yards. I think he had like 2 kickoff returns for like 44 or 45 touchdowns. And
yards.
What did I say?
Touchdown. You said touchdown.
Oh, okay.
He's making the team if he does that.
Oh, heck yeah, he is. Yards, 44 or 45 yards on 2 kickoff returns. And, he had an assisted special teams tackle in addition to, I think, going down and forcing a fair catch on another one there. So, needless to say, Johnny Holton stuck out on the tape the other night. And because of that, Mike Tomlin was asked during his Tuesday press conference, was asked to disclose how aware he was of Holton prior to the team signing him back in May. Holton was, of course, waived by the Philadelphia Eagles not long after the draft took place, and boy, it didn't take, the Steelers were all over him. I think the next day or 2 days later had him signed to the offseason roster, and Mike Tomlin says, very, very, he has an NFL resume in tape. And, if you go back and you look at that resume, and I'm busy writing up a post on Steelers Depot about, Tomlin's comments and everything now. If you go back to his 2016 rookie season, he dressed, he's listed as playing in 15 games that season. Now, he only registered 2 receptions for 34 yards in the 51 total offensive snaps that he played. He did, however, play 137 special team snaps as a rookie and ended the 2016 season with 12 total special teams tackles, the second most on the Raiders that year. 2017, in his 2017 season, he registered another 9 receptions for 218 yards and 3 touchdowns in 230 total offensive snaps played, and he also logged another 187 special team snaps that I can find in his second season and contributed 5 tackles on those units, and believe it or not, 5 tackles tied him for the team high in 2017. Quickly rewind just this past season, he spent most of the year on the Raiders practice squad. I think he was promoted to their 53 for 1 game in November. He logged just 5 offensive snaps, 5 special team snaps in that 1 game that he played in like November or December or whatever, and he didn't log any total snaps there. We talked about him a little bit, during the offseason here. This is technically, this is a younger version of Darius Hayward-Bay, if you will, although he can return kickoffs, Mm-hmm. So that's, I guess, one other thing that really, Darius Hayward-Bay, I'm trying to remember if Darius Hayward-Bay even returned any kickoffs I don't know.
Not really.
I know
DHP
he
is a
took
little
it.
faster than Holden, but
Sure.
Holden can be kick return capable.
Holden was still like a 4.44 guy or something.
Yeah, he's still fast. He's a long strider with good build-up speed, but I mean, Hay was the fastest dude on the team. I don't think Holton's in that camp, but I agree. I mean, they're very similar profiles.
Like I said, don't want to go too much further down this rabbit hole, but I mean, is Holton going to be a guy potentially that Danny Smith is banging the table for?
Hopefully. I mean, that's Holton's path right now. I mean, I had Holton on one of my 53-man roster predictions a couple iterations ago, and he's a guy that I've always said is interesting because of some of the DHB things that he offers. Obviously, DHB no longer a member of the team, and he's different than all the other back-end receivers. The Eli Rogers, the Ryan Switzers, the Deontay Spencers, they're all cut from a similar cloth. I mean, they have different specific skill sets that are different from each other, but they're all generally slottish, return capable, shifty kind of guys, and Holton breaks that mold where he can special teams. He's not going to offer as much in the return game, but a little as a kick returner, but can go down and cover kicks and punts potentially. So I think he just offers a different traits than what the others do, and that's going to give him, I think, a leg up just inherently because he's going to give you something that maybe the other guys can't.
I'm trying to remember. Did he return any punts with or
No,
kickoffs?
I think he's just been kicks. I think he did kicks in college at Cincinnati. I don't think he's done it in the NFL, but obviously the team's giving a look at him.
Yeah, I don't think he's done it at any of that at the NFL level, but he did both at Cincinnati, didn't he?
He did at least kicks. I'm not sure. I can look up punts. I looked it up a week or so ago. I don't think he did punts, but he definitely did kicks and had some decent success. Let me pull up his
I'm trying to pull
reference.
him up, see if I can beat you to the punch here.
45 career kick returns, junior and senior. Just Ethernet connection. 20.9 per kick return, 22 yards as a senior. So not prolific, but he's done it, and obviously they're giving him a look here in Pittsburgh.
And I'm not showing any college punt returns.
Yeah, no punt returns. But I mean, I think it's a guy that can be the kick returner. And to make this team, he's going to be a gunner, a kick returner, and then maybe even get some action in a receiver because he's going to be active. He's your kick returner, and he can play receiver. So, there's a fit there. But is he going to take Switzer's spot or Eli's spot? I know we had that conversation on the podcast.
That's the biggest question.
Yeah, and I still think Eli feels safe. Eli was running first team today when they opened up 3 receivers today. In what is today's date? Even Tuesday's practice, it was Moncrief, Juju, and Eli. And I know that doesn't have to mean everything, but it just feels like that. And Eli playing just the 5 snaps and everything that we've talked about. That if it's going to be any one spot to lose, it's going to be Switzer's.
Deontay Spencer certainly didn't do himself any favors the other night.
No, I mean, he had his issues, but I mean, if you look at just the numbers, and I don't mean the box score scout here, he averaged, 35 yards on his 1 kick return, and then 13 yards, I think, on 3 punt returns. I mean, just looking at that alone, not that it's the say-all end-all, that's pretty good. I think it was a little better, at least in the return game. That might be what we gave him credit for.
Yeah, but also he's not going to give you anything else on special teams other than a return guy, and as a wide receiver, going to probably predominantly be slot related.
He's moved around a little bit. Yeah, I mean, he's probably predominantly slot, but he can play the X. I mean, I think there's a little – he's got to play better as a receiver. He had that ugly drop. Obviously had a contested throw on 3rd down he didn't catch. But if he's just a return guy only, I mean, that's what Switzer was for the early portion of last year. I mean, that's still a fit. You can still make the team that way if he's doing kicks and punts.
If you're Mike Tomlin and Danny Smith and, the rest of the offensive coaching staff, ahead of this Saturday night game, do you go to Holton and say, look, you're going to have the whole first half to do everything and anything that you can?
I mean, that's basically how it played out Friday. He was a starting kick returner, starting gunner. He didn't play a ton at receiver. Are you saying to increase his receiver snaps, basically?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to get a long look. I mean, he was the toughest guy I had to leave off my list, and I know we don't want to talk about trades too much, but if there's any position of strength this team could trade from, it would have to be receiver, right? And could you see a Holton or maybe somehow an Eli or a Switzer if you're getting something for him? I mean, if there's a position you want to point to, it would at least be that receiver group, correct?
Well, I'm thinking if you like Holton enough, it's going to be because several people are banging the table for him. So that would mean to me that you'd probably keep him and deal one of the other 2 guys.
That's fine, yeah.
But I mean, I personally, I would think the market for Eli would be a little bit better than it would be for Switzer
and Holton. I think it's better for either of those guys.
Right,
Yeah, but
right.
and I think the market's going to be
Although
narrow
a trade
for-
market might be because look, I mean, guys that are claimed off waivers and guys that are you generally traded for are either guys that can help you on special teams or help help them, guys that you think might probably can dress for you right out of the chute.
Yeah, and again, I want to be clear. I think it's a very narrow, small market for any of these guys. I mean, I'm
Right, I
talking
agree.
maybe 6th round at best for an Eli and conditional 7s because if Switzer's getting dealt again, his 4th team in 3 years. I mean, that's the red flag to teams. Maybe it's even a player for player swap. I know those are rare, but they're a little more common. One just happened the other day in the NFL. I forget who all was involved. The Steelers did one 2 years ago with Lucas Crowley for Deshaun Phillips. So maybe it could be like Holton for a backup safety. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas, but that would be the only position I could point to right now, except for maybe a Dobbs of someone that could get traded, sent out of Pittsburgh at the end of the camp.
And there's no way they'd keep 7.
No, I mean, I've thought about it, but they're just not going to fit. I mean, you'd have to keep 8 offensive linemen. I know we had a discussion a couple of years ago about keeping 7, but it's not going to be 7. It'll be 6. I think I know Matthew wrote an article today saying that they're not locked into 6. I feel they're pretty locked into 6. I can't see them keeping only 5 with all the depth and options that they have.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they kept more or less than 5 total. I mean 6 total.
Yeah, I agree.
That just looks like that, and it seemed like that's what it's going to be for a while now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's what I mean. Look, I think he should. Going into the game when I write up my players to watch. Friday or Friday night, Friday afternoon, or whatnot. I think Holton should be on that list, don't you? I mean,
I agree.
Because he's a guy. I mean, another good showing. I mean, look. I mean, granted, what he did was after the catch. I mean, but heck, I mean, it showing that open field ability. I bet Danny Smith noticed as well. Oh, don't you have some Danny Smith quote or two for us today?
Yeah, it's probably best to just read about it in the article,
Okay.
but he just being his loud self. I mean, it was a really light crowd today. I mean, I got there today, and it was like 13 people in the stands. It filled up a little bit, but I could hear better of like Sean Surratt and Danny Smith. They're always fun, so check those out on the Training Camp Diary on Steelers Depot.
Yeah, I think I might have had Deontay Spencer on my players to watch on this last one, but not Holton. So I think Holton and you said Sutton Smith was back today, right?
At least an individual. They barely practiced enough to know if he was in team, but he's very close, if not the whole way there.
Boy, he's got an uphill battle. And Mike Tomlin was careful to, he was praising the play of Bush and I like to call him UG3.
Don't call him. He called him Grant, Ulysses Grant.
Yeah.
Tomlin did.
He praising the play of those two, and of course, admitting that Lane, Justin Lane had a tough go of it the other night, and how he was really forced into, by no fault of his own, had to start, and obviously the Buccaneers. And look, overall, if he's got a strong mentality, there's nothing wrong with having a kind of rough outing like that for a kid like that. Get some valuable snaps, and boy, he got a lot of those. 60 or something, 50, 60 snaps or something. So as long as he's a strong-minded kid, I don't mind him being put out there and having to, obviously you wanted him to have a better performance than he did, but he didn't. I don't think many of us were surprised by that overall there. So, anyway, Mike Tomlin was quick to say that, look, don't read too much into this, and he made sure to point out that, a lot of Gilbert's good play came snaps 80 to 89 defensively in the game there too. But Tomlin did also hit that some of these guys that showed well Friday night might get bumped up in groups, get a little bit earlier playing time against a little bit better playing competition this week as well too. So needless to say, I'll have plenty to write about on my players to watch on Friday when I get that article together.
Yeah, I agree. That was what Tomlin was trying to frame it as. Lane was going against starters and Gilbert going against backups, so you can understand why their performances were different. And for Lane, I was happy he was healthy enough to play and make mistakes. Let's make mistakes now in August and make mistakes in September and October. This is the time to learn to get better. You don't get better without having some pitfalls and obstacles along the way. So I'm not going to criticize him too much for that first game. Just recognize what he's got to get better, what he has to get better at, and hopefully he will do that. And I lost my other thought there, but the other thing with the preseason,
I do that all the time.
I know.
You'll find it. It might take a
hanging
while,
around.
but you'll
Yeah,
find it.
I got it. I pulled it back. The thing with the preseason is, it's not only just how you do in one game, but how you do for the next game. Can the guys that played well in game one, like a UG3, can he carry that over and keep that going for game two? Or you're somebody that struggled like a Justin Lane, can he pick things up and learn from his mistakes? So it's the totality of the preseason, where you start and where you finish and everything along the way. So one game doesn't mean up or down, too much. Damon Patterson had a great first game last year. No one talks about Damon Patterson anymore. The dude faded this stretch and he got hurt, and his career in Pittsburgh was done. So let's see, how guys respond, whether they had a positive or negative experience from that first game for the rest of the way.
And Tomlin also was pleased. Generally, he used the word generally pleased with the quarterback play from Friday night. I thought all three guys represented himself and well, and especially in some situational football, yada yada. And look, I mean, how can he not be pleased with the overall performance of those three? And hopefully that continues on into Saturday. I don't know about you. I'm hoping Patrick Mahomes and the rest of that, quite a few of that first team KC offense plays. I think they played some in their first preseason game. I don't know. I haven't heard how much they're going to play in this second one. But, hey, even if it is the Steelers mostly backups in there, why not go against the best? Iron makes iron sharp.
Yeah. In terms of starters, the Steelers defense will probably see more starters than the offense. So, Sean Davis should play. Terrell Edmonds should play. Watt's going to play. So that'll be a good kind of initial gauge for that group.
All right, you want to knock out? You got anything else to add before we knock out maybe a question or two here from the email machine?
Nope. Just hopefully have more to report tomorrow, but we'll see.
All right. This one comes from Muthina. Marcus Allen question. It seems like he might be cut soon. Hopefully he lands on the practice squad. Any chance they move him to inside linebacker a la Mark Barron? Allen has a size and willingness to tackle. He contributes on special teams. Some of his shortcomings as a safety, speed, coverage ability would be average or above average for an inside linebacker.
Well, he's not going to get cut soon. There's no cut down to 75. You're just going from 90 to 53, so the cut downs will all happen at the end of the preseason here late in the month. I know I don't expect a move to inside linebacker this late in the process. I get the point, but I think he's going to be a safety plus. That inside linebacker has become a logjam with UG3 playing well that I don't see the point in trying to move him there. There's not better odds of making it inside linebacker. You have better odds of making it as a safety than you do as an inside linebacker right now.
Yeah, and I think someone else has asked me about, what about the prospects of trading. Boy, you people like to trade. Trading Marcus Allen. Look, anything is possible. We've seen stranger things, but I mean, if I had to guess, I mean, Marcus Allen would have to have a heck of a preseason, I think, from here on out, and especially as a special teamer. I mean, it's not, as I like to say, impossible. But I mean, we're already there's already discussions out there about the Steelers trading 3 or 4 guys,
Mm-hmm.
and realistically, that's just not going to happen. Maybe they trade 1, who knows? Maybe they trade 0. But I mean, all these guys that we're talking about trading, I mean, let's give it a couple more weeks here.
Yeah, and it's been a lot more common under COVID for him to bring a player in than trade a player out. He's traded players out before, but it's a yearly thing where he's adding somebody. It's a little more rare for him to trade somebody out. There's been examples, Cockrell,
Ross Cockrell a couple years ago.
But it's been a little more inconsistent. Just if you happen to have the depth this year, and I don't know if that depth exists the same way this year as maybe years past.
All right, this one came in the other day from Dylan Bayer. Hi, David. Hey, David and Alex. Just curious if you guys caught Kevin Green talking on the Steelers pregame show about pass rushing, the work you need to put in on and off the field, and coaching young players with the Packers, specifically Clay Matthews. Couldn't help but think he was taking a small jab, and I mean small, at someone with the team, whether it be the coach or player or etc. when talking about film study. Regardless, it was cool to listen to someone who was great at his craft and understands how to communicate with those key skills to communicate those key skills to players. Keep up the great work. Dylan, I didn't see it. Alex, did you see or hear Kevin Green on the Steelers pregame show?
I didn't, but I'd love to hear that clip now. I'm excited to hear about that.
Dylan, shoot me another email. Was that on Was that on television? Was it on radio? I thought Kevin Green should have been the hire.
Mm-hmm. You tweeted at him. He tweeted at you about it.
Yeah, he tweeted at me a couple of years ago, back before I think they hired Joey Porter there. And the only thing that obviously Green was cut loose or was not retained by the Jets coaching staff during this offseason. And the only thing I remember reading about him this past offseason that he was finally scheduled to have some I think a hip replacement surgery. That was obviously around, I think, draft time and all like that. Look, I mean, go back, and I wrote about this way back then. What he was able to do with that Packers outside linebacker crew way back, when he coached on that staff there. He'd be at the top of my list if I needed someone coming in. As far as him taking a small jab, I'd have to listen to the context of it, Dylan. I mean, it's hard enough to comment sometimes on written quotes, much less quotes that I did not read or watch. So Kevin Green always be a favorite. Wouldn't surprise me at some point he ends up on the Steelers coaching staff.
Yeah, or so he's going to be in the NFL again at some point, I think. Whether that's in Pittsburgh or somewhere else, I don't know. But he'll be back in the league before too long, I think.
I would think so as well. All right, Alex, I think we're kind of caught up there as far as I can tell, as far as email questions go. How about a quick shout-out to Lynn Testa and the folks at Touring Plans?
Yeah, been a great sponsor throughout camp. We'll definitely give them a shout with these last 2 days coming up. But if you're planning a trip to Disney this winter to get away from the Western PA cold that's going to be impending, hit up touringplans.com. They'll help you plan your trip to Disney.
All right, Alex will be back out there again on Wednesday, and hopefully they'll be able to get a full practice in, and we'll do another recap podcast Wednesday night. Alex, make sure you take a towel out there now.
I will. Always bring your towel.
Always bring your towel, Alex. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. Do you like what we do? Do you like my South Park tally imitations? If so, you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. We got a lot of donations in so far this offseason. We're trying to make a big push at this time of year so we don't have to, kind of keep pushing for it once the season gets underway. There, it certainly does help out any support that we can get that way. If you want, a ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, you can donate $25, and for $25 you'll get a year's subscription, an ad-free subscription to SteelersDepot.com. So you win and we win that way as well too. And to get that, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. So until Wednesday night, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.